I went for a walk the other day, because it's always a good idea to squeeze in a walk every month or so, and while I was out on my stroll, smelling the roses, and occasionally stopping to empty the tank, I stumbled across a sight which, frankly, I still don't know what to make of. There was Mickey Mouse, eyes bloodshot and frothing from the mouth, whipping a giant hamster stuck on a running wheel connected to a money printing machine. Now, I was not expecting to see that. I wasn't sure whether to continue walking as though I hadn't witnessed what Mickey was doing or turn around and head the other way. I felt like both options called attention to me. I mean, how was I supposed to act like stupid Twitter drama had completely distracted me from Mickey Mouse torturing a hamster the size of a Toyota Corolla while shouting profanities at the top of his lungs? In that moment of indecision, I received a loud alert on my phone, and Mickey looked up at me. I learned two things that fateful day. First, I really ought to consider going on a keto diet. And second, Mickey Mouse extracts great joy from getting exhausted giant hamsters to power money printing machines. That explains a lot. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the film which created Disney, is the latest addition to the company's growing list of upcoming live-action remakes. I would say this news makes me upset, but I'm trying this new thing where I put more effort into accurately expressing the pain which racks me throughout every waking moment of my miserable life. So, to that end, the forthcoming existence of a live-action Snow White film doesn't make me upset. More like, utterly despondent? That may seem a strange reaction to the announcement of just one of many remakes. After all, simply knowing of a film's existence isn't quite as painful as having a rusty piece of rebar jammed through your neck, but it's poetic in a depressing way, isn't it? A timeless classic, a hugely influential and innovative piece of cinematic history, the first feature-length animated film ever released is just another thing to be recycled for some easy cash. Every time Disney declares its intentions to remake yet another one of its enduring animated films, several questions begin to circulate in all the media circles. Questions like, who's playing the lead bitch? And, so, is Sebastian actually going to be a photorealistic talking crab? You are fully entitled to ask such questions. It's your right, unless you live in a country where it's not. However, I would propose that there is a far more pressing question to be asked. And that question is, why? Why? Why are you doing this? Why can't you just stop? Disney used to be in the business of making films, but over the last decade, they've steadily become the leaders of the grey sludge industry. Their hallmark sludge is without a doubt the live-action remakes they've been churning out year after year, which have collectively generated them billions of dollars in revenue. I'm not going to pretend as though nostalgia hasn't always been something which corporations have tried to capitalize on, but my god does it feel like we've entered into a whole new era of grave robbing. The sheer number of remakes and reboots currently pending release is staggering. Unfortunately, there's no getting around that this is simply supply meeting demand. The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Alice in Wonderland all grossed over $1 billion at the box office, while Cinderella, Maleficent, and The Jungle Book each made well over $500 million. It's self-evident that a lot of people are clamoring for these live-action remakes. But it's not as though the original films are locked in a safe at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. The animated classics, which are simply great films, are readily available to watch, and they're timeless. They're fucking timeless. When I watched these films as a kid, I couldn't tell that the likes of Sleeping Beauty or Pinocchio were decades older than The Little Mermaid or Tarzan. I wholeheartedly reject the idea that these films need to be reimagined for a modern audience. And yet, the box office numbers reflect otherwise, so one has to ponder why exactly it is that these remakes are in such high demand, especially amongst people in my generation. Maybe their prevalence is due to this absurd notion that live action is inherently superior to animation. I would not write that explanation off. There are people who still unironically believe that all cartoons are childish. Maybe it's just that things don't seem quite as simple anymore. Not because the world is truly any more tumultuous, but rather because we've grown up. Because during our childhood, when we first watched these great films, We didn't have to think about scary things like whether we'll ever be able to afford a house. Our principal concern in life was whether there were enough Cocoa Pops left in the box to last us for a 7-hour session of Mario Kart Double Dash. The real world is an unpredictable and uncomfortable place which is completely indifferent to our interests, and the unceasing march of time inevitably rips away from us that warm and comfy blanket we had become so used to napping under. And so perhaps these live-action remakes serve to remind us, even if only for a couple of hours, of what it felt like to be underneath that cozy blanket. Maybe all that has something to do with it. Then again, what do I know? I'm not an anthropologist. Whatever the reason is though, it's too late to put a stop to this trend. We are well up shit creek now. The Lion King remake proved to the world that butchering one of the greatest films of all time is a highly lucrative business move. There are plenty of graves left to be plundered, and they'll get to them all sooner or later, don't you worry about that. The Great Mouse Detective and Treasure Planet will eventually find themselves in Mickey's crosshairs like all the rest. The worst part about all this is that these remakes come at a hefty price. All the talent needed to create big budget films, from VFX artists to costume designers, is being wasted on flagrantly unoriginal content instead of brand new stories which could further bolster what was formerly a near spotless library of films from the House of Mouse. But commerce always wins, my friends, and that's all this is. Cynical, unadulterated, shameless fucking commerce.